that positivity was actually the thing that carried me through all of the hardships, through work, through my healthcare career, through my boxing, through my personal life. And I realized that was kind of the secret sauce all along.
Welcome back to the Work Positive Podcast. I'm Dr. Joey, your host, coaching you to grow people and profits. Zig Ziglar was one of my favorites. I really miss him. He once said, positive thinking will let you do everything better than negative thinking will. So when I think positive, I may not be able to slam dunk like LeBron, but at least I'll shoot better, right? But how do you do that? How do you get positive and stay positive? My guest today is the founder of Practice Your Positive and the creator of Team Positive and The Game, a team positive experience, an interactive, high-energy event that feels like a pep rally meets leadership training. She helps leaders and teams train positivity like athletes through gamified frameworks, workshops, and live events. She shows folks like us how to build resilience, belonging, and momentum every day, turning positivity into a discipline that drives a happy mind, a healthy body, and deeper connections. So lean in, listen up, and learn how to positively grow people and profits on this episode of the Work Positive Podcast. Are you ready to get sassy, Work Positive Nation? I sure am, because Sarah Schaefer is in the Work Positive house today, and I am stoked. That's right, spirit fingers for Sarah. If you're not watching this on YouTube, you really should be. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Hey, thank you for having me, Work Positive Nation. Happy to be here. I feel like we have a lot of synergies and alignment that I'm looking forward to talking about.
It's that whole positive thing. I mean, let's face it, there are enough people that I call Eeyore vampires in the world, right? We don't need any more. So today, you're not only going to get inspiration, you're going to get information, and we're going to talk about how you too can work positive, and we're going to dig into team positive because that's an amazing thing that Sarah does. In the show notes, you'll see practiceyourpositive.com, that link there. If you want to click on that, unless you're driving down the road or like on the Peloton, I don't want to be the cause of a broken nose. So just wait till you get off. But it's in the show notes when you're ready, right? And her LinkedIn profile's there too. Great way to DM her. So every superhero has an origin story. Sarah Schaefer, what's yours?
Yes. Oh, good question. There is an origin story, and I think like a lot of stories, I didn't see it coming until I was like two-thirds of the way through the story, you know.
You were living it, right?
And then you finally look back and you're like, oh, that was it all along.
I see myself now.
It's that retro site is just amazing. Yeah, so I think the origin story is that I've always been in healthcare, and I've kind of run these two tracks in my life, right? Building my career, taking the next step, doing all of that, and then in my private life, kind of pushing the boundaries. I was a boxer. I did a lot of like sports and fitness, and these kind of two parallel lines. And it wasn't really until I had a great personal shakeup that I really saw the story in hindsight, was able to put the
Mm,
pieces together.
mm, mm.
So at work, I always brought my positivity. I used to always say I'm positive, patient, and persistent, right? That's how we get through the day. That's how we get through this world. That's how, we make the world a better place. But it wasn't
Mhm.
really until I faced my own personal storms. I live in Florida. I had back-to-back hurricanes and lost everything, including the house.
Oh
And
man.
it wasn't really until I hit that level of starting over, rebuilding, that I realized that positivity was actually the thing that carried me through all of the hardships, through work, through my healthcare career, through my boxing, through my personal life. And I realized that was kind of the secret sauce all along. And so instead of sometimes being a little bit shy, that I'm a little bit loud or a little messy or a little bit extra, I was like, actually, this is actually some of the best parts of me, and I would love to
Oh,
share this with other people. And that's what I've been doing for the past few years, and it's really been, I finally feel like the hero in my own hero origin story.
oh man, I love it. Yeah. We really want to avoid pain at all costs, most of us. And we think,
Mhm.
hey, I'll be positive when, my kids graduate high school, when they graduate college, when they get married, da da da. We're always staging life. right now's the time to be positive, even in the midst of losing. I can't imagine losing two homes. I mean, one's bad enough, but two,
Yeah.
when you're at
Yeah.
that kind of bottom, the only place you can look is up, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. We lost the first time, rebuilt 6 months later, bigger storm, lost everything again.
6 months?
Just finished. The grout was just drying on the new bathroom and then everything. 4 feet of
No.
seawater.
Oh my.
Yeah, that's a
Uh,
kick in the head, right?
Kicking the head, kicking the teeth, kicking.
Yeah.
Oh no, I'm not gonna
Yeah.
say that. But anyway,
Yeah.
it's really a kick. By
Yeah.
the way, were you a kickboxer? Because I don't know if I need to bob or weave
Oh,
or just
no,
watch
no,
your hands or
I'm all heavy hands.
you're up in your hands. Okay, all
Yeah.
right. So I
Yeah.
don't have to watch your legs here during this podcast. That's pretty cool. That whole thing, you just reminded me of. I used a Zig Ziglar quote, whom I loved. About thinking positive gets you closer to it than negative thinking will. But you just reminded me, Dr. Norman Vincent Peale, back in 1952, wrote a book called The Power of Positive Thinking. In there, he says, within every adversity lies the seeds of opportunity. Okay, one time a hurricane wipes out my home, I'm thinking, okay, here's an opportunity. The second time, I'm feeling like Job. I'm just getting beat down, beat down, beat down. How
Yeah.
did you spring forward from that adversity? Because that's professional, that's personal, that's all of Sarah Schaefer.
It is. I'll add a layer on there that I've been in the same field for 15 years, and in 23, the year my home flooded, I got laid off from my job, and in 24, when the house flooded, I again got laid off from my job. Um, and that the first time it's funny, right? Because it's funny in 23,
It's
the first
funny.
time,
I'm
I
waiting for
rebuilt.
the punchline.
I know,
It's
I
not
know.
funny
It's
yet.
good. Believe me. There's one in there.
All
Right,
right.
23. I rebuilt the
Okay.
house. I moved back in. I lost the job. I went right back in. I went right back in the field and was like, all right. And then the second year in a row that this happened, the house is that I can't move home, right? Like the house it needs to be knocked down. I can't live in it the way it is. It's flooded too
Mm,
many times.
mm,
And the job closed, the whole contract closed, right? New administration change came in, 10
mm.
years, 12 years of work, pulled the website down, everything, it's gone. Like poof, these two
Ooh,
things are gone. And
ooh.
so this time I've really decided to listen to this, right? I hear the
Right.
story of like, if you don't learn the lesson the first time, the universe keeps upping the stakes until you do. So I don't want to know what's going to happen the third time.
Third
So
time's a
I
charm,
said,
right?
okay, I'm at a point. This is a transition in my life. I'm going to embrace this change. But listen, I mean, I smile, I joke, but I was put some pretty dark times. I mean, it's certainly the hardest thing I've ever been through doing it. And I have a 9-year-old, so seeing her through it, losing,
Oh,
childhood possessions, losing her childhood home. I mean, there's some real dark times.
oh,
Um, but the lesson for me has been the practices I've put in place, right? Like I was practicing this positivity before I needed it. So when
mm.
the storm hit, I actually did have
Oh,
a community. I had rhythms. I had things I could lean on, and they worked for me then. So I'm not going to abandon them now. Now I'm just doubling down on all these things and hoping that the lessons I've learned and the practices that I put together can help somebody else going through their storms.
I absolutely love it. Absolutely love it. So I want to know what were some things you leaned on?
I The first time I got laid off, I didn't have a huge network. I worked my job and I came home and I'd see the neighbor. Do you ever do that? You see the neighbor, you're just kind of like, hey,
Hi,
give them
neighbor.
a nod. Like, oh, yep, cool girl nod. Or the cashier, you're like, yep, yep, bye.
Gotcha.
And after that first time, I realized, especially working from home, so many of us are remote now. I need that human connection. I
Okay.
do. It just lifts me up every time I interact with someone, the cashier at the store, the person at the park, like it lifts me up. And so, I have a big social network,
Mm,
not just online, but like in real life, you know, and
people with
I
flesh.
mean, the community has been, the community really has been so much of it.
So how did you go about building that community? Because you said first time you didn't really have a
Yeah.
community. Now you've got a
No.
community. What were some secrets to building that community? Because the secrets, they build connections at work for us, and that's what makes a work positive
Yes.
culture. So lay it
Yeah.
on us.
Yes. So I like to kind of gamify my life. I like to give myself little challenges. And so
Yep.
I started giving myself like a little daily, like challenge for the day, right? So walk without earbuds. You must say hi to people, right? Like, these were the rules of the game. And when I'm at a cashier, when I'm out in public, try to make small talk, thank the person for coming in, like break that bubble of, right? We're two separate people, like break the bubble and like connect like two humans. And so I mean, it sounds crazy, but these
No,
are
it makes perfect sense. Act like you like people.
yeah, like right, and hell, that quote, like hell is other people. It's really not like that's our perception, but
Mm,
I never leave an interaction with someone like either I give support, they get support. I find I mean the my world opened up, and so I just made myself this little game. How many people can I say hi to today? How many like
I
right,
do.
and then I do that enough times, then that becomes my default. And
Hmm.
sometimes it might be
Yeah.
embarrassing to my 9-year-old that I'm standing in line for 10 minutes talking to the cashier about her hysterectomy. But
Yeah.
hey, I mean, right, but she needed it. I talked and I feel better.
Hey, look, in a couple, 3 years, just breathing will embarrass your breathing will embarrass
It'll
her.
be
So don't
embarrassing.
worry about that. Well, okay, I gamify it too, and I'm just going to go full Monty here. I gamify it
Okay.
too because I understand the neuroscience behind mirror neurons. They're right beside the activation neurons, and so we all mirror back and forth. So I smile. I
Yes.
just smile at people. I show these beautiful dimples and I just smile at people. And I promise you, 9.5 out of 10 will smile back because it's a mirror neuron thing. And then the cashier thing, you know what I've started doing? Like I go through and
Do.
every time I'm with my parents, it's a mixed marriage for my mom and dad. They've only been together 67 years, but he prefers Bojangles breakfast biscuits and she likes Biscuitville. I'm not quite sure how they've stayed married as long as they have with this difference in biscuits, but I go to Bojangles and swing through. That's a Southern thing, by the way, as is Biscuitville. So just Google it and you too will want Bojangles or Biscuitville biscuits. But anyway, I swing through Bojangles and then I swing through Biscuitville. And both times, both cashiers. You know what I say to them? Thank you for working today. Because I swear, if you talk to one owner of a restaurant today, you get the same stories you do from 1,000 restaurant owners today. It's hard to find what? Any help, not
People,
just
right?
good
Anybody
help,
show
but
up.
any
Yes.
help, right? So I'm thinking people, especially when I'm driving through at like 5:45 in the morning, because somebody got up
Yeah.
early to make those biscuits and it wasn't me. I'm just driving through with a gift card that I gave my parents that so they'll give it to me and I can use it. Right? But I mean, this gamification humanizes, humanizes it. So let's take that to work.
Yes.
Let's
Yes.
take it to work. How do we create this culture, amazing Sarah Schaefer? How do we create this culture to where we humanize it to such an extent that we speak to one another and
Mm.
make connections which go deeper so that I mean, if you can find out about the cashier's hysterectomy, amaze yourself with what you can do with a work partner.
Yes. Yes. I think authenticity is like the new currency, right? We've all seen the LinkedIn posts, the social media posts. We all know the mission and value speaking line, but I find that the authenticity of speaking the truth
Mm,
cuts through that.
yeah.
And so, I spent my career in healthcare. It doesn't do us any good talking of ignoring the fact that we had call outs or that there was a patient issue or right. And so the authenticity, and then I've always found, especially as like a leader, when you share that authenticity and you share openly and you talk truthfully about what's going on, there's a psychological safety that you
Yes.
can almost, like, I can almost see people like exhale or just like,
Mhm,
oh, we're in,
mhm,
oh,
mhm,
she gets it. We're talking in
mhm.
reality, right? Like we don't have to play this game of, oh, nobody look, nobody talk about that. Oh my God, like, speak only
Yeah.
in core values. Meanwhile, like the clinic's on fire and right, there's five call
That's
outs and,
that's right.
and so I've really just found that the authenticity. And hey, it started when I started it, I was authentic about not knowing what I was doing because I did not know what I was doing. Like the first time I got a management job, I'm asking you guys because I literally don't know what to do next. And so
Wow.
I need your input because this is my first rodeo.
Yeah.
And instead of that causing a gap, it actually brought people into me, right? It showed that like I don't have all the answers. I want to work this out together, and don't worry, I'll figure this out and I'll move
Yeah.
us forward. But I still want that, that authenticity, that openness. I just find that just cuts through people's defenses. It cuts the bubbles in a way that almost nothing else can.
Oh, I love that. I'm fond of saying, Sarah, that I'm not stupid, but I am ignorant.
Oh, that's a good one.
There is so much I don't know, but
Yeah.
I'm authentic enough to say I don't know, and it's okay. And in fact, to your point about psychological safety, that's how Dr. Amy Edmondson discovered psychological safety, right? It was quite by accident. She thought the medical team that reported the fewest mistakes would be the one that had the best team chemistry and da 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 da. But in fact, it was the one that reported the most, and they were most effective in their practices because they said, hey, I don't know what to do here, or that could have gone better. How can we make it better? So it's that level of authenticity that really humanizes the work
Mm.
culture. So let's say we're sitting across the table from each other and you're interviewing me for a position with in your case, a medical company, right? Medical provider. How will you communicate to me that you have a psychologically safe and authentic culture?
Yeah. I think that, that I think about it in three things. One, being realistic about the job.
Ah,
Right. I mean, just being realistic about the workload, the common issues, the kind of people that do well here,
mm,
just being straight about the realistically what the job is going to be like, right? What the role is, what the team is like, giving them a real preview. So, right, they can make the choice in full, in as much full transparency as you can when you don't work there, but they can make a real choice of what they're stepping into and don't have that feeling of like getting the rug pulled out, right? Have you ever had that? You saw even for anything, right? You sign up, you think it's going
oh,
to be this,
yeah,
and you're like, I just bait and switch. It's
yeah.
terrible. No one likes
I
that.
might have read about that. I don't. Oh my God, I refer to it as dating hard, and then you get married and you quit, right? You quit
Yeah,
trying.
yeah,
It's the best way I know to describe it because now you're talking about once you get them on the team, how do you keep them?
yeah,
Oh, well, it sounds simple, but it's not easy. Do what you say you're going to do in
yeah,
those initial interviews, right?
yeah. Yeah. And then I like to think about the guardrails that I can put in place as their
Mhm.
leader, but then also the empowerment that they have, right? Like I can put guardrails around, like how the schedule is set up, focus
Yeah.
blocks so that nurses can step off the floor and do what they have to do. I can tell you the escalation process,
Mm.
but also an empowerment that like your voice matters, right? I won't know if you don't tell me,
Mhm. Mhm.
and there's not a retaliation this is an open dialogue, but I can put in guardrails, but also I think I don't know about you, but in healthcare there's a lot of kind of martyrs, right? We light ourselves on fire to keep other people warm, right? We do everything for everyone else, and we
Mm.
burn out privately. And
Yeah.
so that's where I need, trying to set up that conversation from the beginning of like, I can put those in, but you also need to tell me if this is too much. If
Yeah.
that patient issue has become too much, we have to have that dialogue.
Mm. So admitting weakness brings strength.
Mm, yes.
Mm. I'm just
Yes.
thinking about nurses, particularly. Man, they burn out
Mm,
and burn up. And
mm,
now there's this shortage of nurses, and there's going to be for a number of years.
yes.
My brother's daughter, my niece, is in nursing school right now.
Mm,
And that's the conversation I'm having with her is please take care of yourself so this can be something that a career that you continue in for a while. Because, I mean, we lose all the rest of the stuff in our lives, right? The marriages, the children, of course, my generation, the boomers, we did a great job of screwing it up, right? We have the highest addiction rate and divorce rate of any previous generation. And then we raised children to think that was normal. Um, so humanizing that whole process means authenticity. and that authenticity creates psychological safety. I absolutely love that one. Let me ask you a question. What if the key to growing your work culture hides in plain sight? Take the free Work Positive Culture Assessment to discover it. Get insights in less than 4 minutes that transform your culture so you grow people and profits. You just answer 13 simple questions and discover your culture stage, strengths, and personalized next steps. Get your free aha culture moment at workpositive.today. Go to workpositive.today right now. Sarah Schaefer is my guest on this episode of the Work Positive Podcast. Her LinkedIn profile's in the show notes, so be sure to go there, check it out. And then we're going to talk a little bit more about our website, Practice Your Positive. Notice it's Your Positive, practiceyourpositive.com. So we're going to look at that and talk about that a little bit more in a few minutes. So there's somebody listening to this that's saying, okay, all that sounds really good, Sarah and Dr. J, but I've got these challenges. What are the challenges that you see with teams, particularly as they seek to be team positive out there today?
Yeah. I think, the first challenge is just overcoming that positivity. Do you see that? Do you see there's like a gut reaction sometimes to that word?
Oh, yeah, my favorite is now, Dr. Joey, what about toxic positivity? And I'm like, do what? Now I know what they mean. I've read this, I read the research and what have you. But this is not rose-colored glasses, Pollyanna kind of stuff. You lost 2 homes and 2 jobs in 6 months. There's nothing Pollyanna about that kind of adversity. But instead, you found ways to build resilience and to overcome, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And that's where, for me, positivity is more about the capacity to handle what comes your way and still choose to move forward. It's not, and so I think I get the gut reaction sometimes, and people who are on team positive, and I use that figuratively, right? Like people who have embraced positivity are like, yes, that is my jam. Give it to me all day long. Like that's the only way to be. And for years too, like I didn't always feel this positive, right? I like to joke that the pendulum swings as far in one direction as it does in the other. So just like in every challenge is a seed of opportunity, and every
Yep.
in every positive person, there's been some darkness. At least that's been my journey.
100%. Yeah,
Um, you
mine
know,
too. And I'm very clear that early in my career, I passed on the management styles that I had experienced, which
okay.
I refer to as Kevin culture. I mean, it's toxic. I was a pain in the butt. I was a jerk. You did
Mhm.
not want to work for me. Oh, by the way,
Mhm.
Sherm says 57% of people who leave because of somebody like me and that,
Mhm.
right? And I just figured out, hey, I don't like myself. I don't like the consequences. I don't like the outcomes. I don't like people crossing the street, so to speak, when they
Yeah.
see me coming. So how can I change? So it's in that adversity, bouncing forward, as Sean Aker talks about. You know, I consider him the king of positive psychology, right? So he and Marty Seligman. So just bouncing forward. How do I do that? Well, it means that something in my life sucked.
Mhm.
There's something about this company culture sucks, and I refer
Mhm.
to it as running towards a fire. That's what we do, right, Sarah? We run
Yeah.
towards the fires, right?
Yeah.
And help companies pivot because the profit margins are 157% greater for companies that win Best Places to Work awards and have
Yeah.
positive work cultures, right?
Yeah, it's not fluff, and I think there is a move in the zeitgeist
Mm,
toward realizing that, as we talk about authenticity, but that like energy management, like that's real. It's not just like vibes. It's not, it's really not something light. We've all been in a room, or you've seen a person.
yeah,
Maybe it was me or you in the past, right? Where the person walks in and you're just like, ooh, I do not like,
yeah, yeah.
I do not want, everyone kind of averts their eyes. The
Oh
manager walks
no, it's
in,
like
everyone kind of like
fingernails on a
scurries.
chalkboard going,
Yeah, yeah.
right? Yeah.
And vice versa with those mirror neurons. You walk in, upbeat, seeing the good in the world, and that's what's echoed back to you.
Mm.
So, and I've had the question of like, what do you do when someone's negative, right? What do you do with that? And, I usually start with a lot of compassion, right? I know that when I was that way and through people I've known, right, we don't. I believe we are positive and joyful and we are plugged into people at our heart and we are good. It's all the layers of things that happen to us and the things that we hear and all these things
Mm.
that get in the way. And so when there's a negative team, when there's a negative person, really it's a compassion and a listening to that person, right? Like, where did this come from? It didn't just happen because they woke up and said, "Oh, I'm going to be a jerk today," right? I didn't think
Mm.
that. You didn't think that. Nobody thinks that, but yet we get
I
sucked
don't
into
know. I've known a couple of guys that I think
it.
woke up and said, "Let's
Wow.
see, how can I take my jerkness to a whole new level today?" And they relished in that. Well, to your point, it is a redemptive process, and yet we can't own their redemption.
Yes.
So what I talk about is, let's say you walk in on one of those negative conversations and the vibe is just, I mean, it's circling the bowl, right? We're all about to go down in the sewer.
The swirl, yes.
Yeah, that big swirl. So first redirect. Let's just change the subject. Hey, can you believe the Yankees knocked the Red Sox out of the American League playoffs?
Yeah.
Then if that doesn't work and the Year of Vampire just keeps on, then you reframe it. So it
Mm.
may be something like, yeah, I know what you mean. Dr. J is not the best boss in the world, but man, my payroll check, it clears the bank every single time. So, I mean, you just
Yes.
reframe it. Same subject, but it's like you're changing the polarity on it.
Yes.
And those are two redemptive moves, right, Sarah? But the
Hmm.
third one is if that Year of Empire just won't change, you got to remove yourself from them because it's like they've got the flu or COVID or whatever, disease you don't want. You got to
Yes.
remove yourself from that because that stuff sticks, right?
Yes. Yes. And boundary, and right for boundaries in,
Yes.
personally, professionally, right? I can't, and I can, right? I can stand on my head. I can make you laugh. I can, right? I can do all those things. But at the end of the day, it's your choice, right? And if
Choice.
you don't want to believe any of that, if you don't want to buy into any of that, that is your choice too. And you have the free will to continue being an Eeyore vampire. And
Mm,
perhaps one day something will happen and that will trigger in you, a transformation. But
right.
and we see that too with teams, the teams that tolerate that say, oh, everyone turns a blind eye, no one wants to deal with so and so. And I've had those teams, right? That tough person on the team where everyone's like, oh, don't, just let them go. We all just ignore them. They're a bully. They're
Mm, mm,
that was a huge part when I was a new manager was like putting my big girl pants on and being like, we have to have this conversation.
mm-hmm.
This is not, this is dragging the whole team down. And
Yeah.
right, we have to have this conversation because this is going to morale killer, and I'm
Yep.
not going to sacrifice my entire team because
Right.
no one wants to talk to Susie, right? No one wants to talk to,
Right. Oh man. It's
you know,
like putting a bag of garbage on the back porch in the summer sun and expecting it to smell better after a few days, right?
yeah,
It ain't gonna happen. So you
no,
got to have that conversation. It can be redemptive. But I love your use of the choice word
yeah,
because we choose how to respond to the adversity. You chose how to respond to getting flooded out and laid off twice,
yes,
right?
yes,
You could have made a choice not to be on podcast, not to be team positive, but you
yeah,
chose differently.
yeah,
So, if at the risk of being too personal,
yeah.
what was that pivot point for you, Sarah Schaefer, when you decided I can go to the dark side or I can come to the light? What was that pivot point for you?
Yeah. That's a good question. It is a pivot point. Um, I have spent a lot of my life forcing situations, forcing relationships, forcing the job, saying, I will just work harder. I will outwork this. I will
Mhm.
make this happen.
Mm,
I am Wonder Woman. I can bend reality. And
mm,
and to some points it's worked, right?
right.
But it wasn't really until I surrendered in a way to the circumstances
Yes.
and allowed the situation, like the radical acceptance and the surrender to what is this teaching me, right? This is not a punishment. This is a lesson. And as painful as this lesson is,
Mm,
there must be something in this. This doesn't happen because I'm a bad person or I deserve bad things or right? And I don't know about you, but my brain can go to all those places when,
Oh boy, I
right?
know them
I've
all
worked
by
hard my
heart.
whole life.
Yeah.
I've checked all the boxes.
Mm.
Suddenly I'm, 40 and I'm displaced from my home and I don't have a job, right? Like,
Mm.
what the heck happened? Like, I did
Where did
everything
that come
right.
from?
I
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
And so, it really was kind of a surrender. And
I love it.
you know, I don't say that I make that choice every time, right? Like
Hmm.
there were a lot of mornings that I would wake up and it'd just be like, not this again, this nightmare
Yeah.
again.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then again, through like a lifetime of training and this idea of practice is like, if
Mm.
I have an action bias, right? Okay, but I'm going to get up and brush my teeth and I'm going to be thankful that
Yep.
I can brush my teeth. And I'm thankful that
Mm.
I have a safe place to stay. And I'm thankful it's a
Mm.
beautiful day. And
Mm.
I'm going to say hi to
Mm.
my neighbor and let them talk to me about their little dog that got rescued and it's only got one
Yeah.
life.
I love
Right?
it.
Like when I'm going to get absorbed in other people's stories. And,
Yeah.
as I kind of would build that momentum,
Mm.
every day, it would be maybe two steps forward and one step back.
Yep.
And it's still a process, but it's hanging in the saddle to make that choice again and again. It was not a one-time choice. It's a choice that I make, again and again and again.
Every morning, right? And I love your choice of gratitude because I think from a neurochemical standpoint as
Mhm.
well as your heart standpoint, man, gratitude is a huge lift and leverage. As I'm fond of telling my clients when they say, "Ah, well, what if there's nothing to be grateful for that day?" Well, my go-to is I didn't get run over by a concrete truck today. So I don't know what your go-to is, but you could choose
Yeah.
your own go-to. I'm suspecting if I go to practiceyourpositive.com, which the link is in the show notes, by the way, Work Positive Nation, that I'm going to find some of these habits, these action-based habits that you're talking about.
Yes. Yeah. So the Practice Your Positive is primarily my speaking site, but we're teeing up the full content gallery. I have a podcast. I do
Mm,
two 10-minute episodes a week. And those are
sweet.
really the ones where we talk about a lesson and then a positive of the day, what
Mm,
you can try, the action you can take.
mm.
Don't just listen to me. Go do it yourself, right?
Yep.
Like 1 point for saying it, 10 points for doing it. Do the thing, see how you feel. If you don't feel better, get your money back, right? I don't know,
I
free
love it.
podcast, right? But
Yeah.
try it, do it yourself. If you don't believe me, do the thing and see how you feel. And
Mm.
so I would also recommend or encourage folks to go to Practice Your Positive Daily. That's on YouTube. Two 10-minute episodes a week. Bing
Sweet.
bang boom, I get you in, we talk about it, and I give you homework and lots of love.
I love it. And action really is a great antidote, isn't it? Because if you can get your body moving, it gets your brain moving, and you can get moving forward so that you too can work positive. I love it. Sarah Schaefer's been my guest on this episode of Work Positive Podcast. Also, in the show notes is her LinkedIn profile. So be sure to go there and connect with her there, message her there, read her content. And also go to YouTube. How about we put a link to Practice Your Positive Daily on YouTube? We'll put that in the show notes also so that we can see Sarah giving us something to do. So, speaking of something to do, final question Work Positive Nation always wants me to ask my guest is let's talk about that something to do. Your dot, I call it. Do one thing. I mean, Jim Collins has sold more books than I probably will in a lifetime, his big, hairy, audacious goal stuff. But not all of us can be Hag. All of us can dot. We can do one thing. So, Sarah
Yeah.
Schaefer, what's your one thing that you would challenge Work Positive Nation with today to do to create the kind of positive work culture we're talking about?
Yeah, my do one thing would be to check in on your team's energy. So I like to start a meeting, right? Where's your energy at and what would move you up 1 point? Being realistic, and that's where sometimes, right, folks might share that maybe it's not work related. We've all had that person where like, oh, they're kind of sully, they're salty today, but hey, their dog's sick, right? It's got nothing to do with me, nothing to do with you. And so just giving people a space to just be realistic about where their energy is, where their mind is, and then what it would take. And then, hey, wouldn't it be great if they said what they needed and we gave that to them, right? If they needed a little lightness or they needed, honesty on a policy or whatever. And so do one thing, check in on a scale of 1 to 10. Where's your energy today? And what would it take to move you up 1 point and see what happens as you talk to people about their energy and really check in on them.
I love it. Work Positive Nation. Go to practiceyourpositive.com right now. There you'll find the amazing Sarah Schaefer. You'll also find her on LinkedIn and on YouTube. Sarah, I'm better because of this conversation today, and I know Work Positive Nation is too. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. This was so warm and welcoming, and I love talking about these things, and so thankful to you and your work and a platform to share this positivity.
I'm so grateful you joined our conversation about creating positive work cultures that grow people and profits. Connect with me directly on LinkedIn today. Just search for Dr. Joey Fawcett, or you can click the link in your show notes. When you send your connection request, mention you're a Work Positive Podcast listener, because I want to give you a free digital copy of my Work Positive Team Edition book. It's a $19.95 value, but I want to share it with you free because it contains practical strategies that I personally use with clients to transform toxic work environments into thriving cultures. We explore in that book how to create a positive work culture, and we do so again in every episode of this podcast. Our LinkedIn connection allows you and me to directly talk about your specific challenges, so feel free to send me a message on LinkedIn. I personally read and respond to all those messages because I genuinely care about your work positive success. So go to LinkedIn and let's connect. Remember to mention you're a podcast listener to receive your free Work Positive Team Edition book. I look forward to seeing you on our next episode of the Work Positive Podcast.